Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chiscool Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Whiteout Survival, I want to talk about how it is that we built the #1 alliance by power in our server, and everything I learned about that along the way. Everything I wish I had known about technology, territory. Whether you're a member or a leader of an alliance, I aspire to give you a lot of valuable information. So stick around in this video. I'm 2 weeks into my journey playing Whiteout Survival, but not new to this genre. In fact, I've been YouTubing for the last 6 years, so consider subscribing. This is my dedicated Whiteout Survival channel, and let's get started. Man, joining an alliance is critical. This is not really a single player game, even though the majority of the time you can kind of play it that way. This really is all about who you are playing with. It is a community game. And there are several critical things to your community, your alliance, that you need to know about. I'm not even sure where I really want to start here, but let's get to the basics. You join an alliance, and just like one of the very first things you need to do is start building territory. Territory is critical for establishing literally where you are and what your alliance owns on the map. Now, building territory not only establishes places where you get stat bonuses, and I believe also a gathering speed boost, which is kind of cool. In fact, let's see the bonus stats we get. We can just tap this and see. Resource gathering speed boost of 20%, territory defender attack, territory defender defense, meat gathering speed, etc. We get all these benefits, all right? But also, building alliance territory makes it so that you can place other alliance buildings and makes it so that you can start generating alliance resources. There are a number of things that are going to require alliance resources in order to do them. So this is very, very critical. You're going to start by dropping your alliance headquarters. And from there, you drop what's called banners. Now, this is where we are at the exact moment. We just built this hive very recently, but we started all the way on the outside of the map, which is where you'll start to. We started over here. We built this fort, and we started building up territory. Now, as I mentioned, territory gives bonuses, but also you start to get resources from these buildings over here. These are alliance resource centers, and they are specific for different types of resources. So there's a wood mill. We've got a coal mine over here. You can see they're marked off with the little meat icon in the case of this food node. And also there's a little shield next to it. So that's an alliance farm. It's that special little shield that marks a alliance resource node from just a regular resource node that you can gather when you're zoomed out on the map. Anyways, you start getting all these resources, and they go into your alliance's storehouse. Your storehouse can be viewed from the territory screen. You can see all the way up top the amount of resources we have, but I can also tap the storehouse button, and it shows you what we've been spending our resources on. Now, you need resources to build more banners, which is funny because you need to put down banners to get alliance resources. And also, you can use it to get alliance technology. Alliance technology is a very big deal. For obvious reasons, this is a big deal, but once you scroll through and tap on the sorts of things you're getting, it includes more alliance member capacity. It includes things like more ally help time, includes construction speed boosts, research speed boosts. You get stat boosts in this tree over here. This middle tree for territory gives you the ability to expand your storehouse and expand your flag capacity, which is a big deal. All of this stuff is very, very critical. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, if you want to be one of the strongest alliances, you need to have this technology, because the technology is how you get more member slots. More member slots means more power. More power means more donations. More donations means more technology. And you see how this is going. So once you can start that like virtuous cycle of growing, you can get a sort of snowball in your favor if you do it right in a new server. This is why we mandated that people donate resources, and I was very quick to talk to and then remove people who were not donating resources for whatever reason or went inactive for any meaningful amount of time. My recommendation to you at the start of the game, if you're running an alliance, is that anyone who's inactive for 2 days or more, you just got to remove them and kind of assume they're not active enough for your alliance, assuming you're making a top alliance in your server, right? Because that player is not contributing to tech. They're not going to defend you if somebody attacks, right? Like, what are we talking about? Who are you trying to play with? Ultimately, it is people that contribute to your success, all right? Now, players get divided up into different rank tiers. Technically, you can rename what these tiers are. The way that we've got this now is new players or players that are on the bubble for activity reasons would be here. In this case, this is a new player to our alliance. Once you are active but not yet in our Discord server, you move up to rank 2. And if you are active and in our Discord server, we move you up to rank 3. Discord is a service that's used for communication. Gamers use this very regularly. If you're not familiar with it, I don't know. It is like the most popular gaming communication tool that I've ever used anyways. And I think it's a nice thing to have on top of all of the in-game communications as well, okay? So we keep that distinction just so that it's easy for us to know how we can reach people. And then there's your officers who have access to a number of sort of things that they can do, including kicking members, building flags, destroying flags, and more. And then there's the R5, who's the leader of the alliance. In this case, that's me. All right. Lot to take in there. We talked about territory. We talked about technology. There are also just perks to being a member of your alliance. In case you didn't know, we talked, I think, briefly about the value of helps, reducing the time it takes to do buildings, research, and also your healing. But as you help people and as you do other alliance activities, you're going to get this currency you see in the upper right over here for your shop. They're called alliance tokens. Alliance tokens can be spent on a number of things. The best is, in my opinion, going to be teleports, but I get most things that are 70 or 40% off. I like to get VIP when it's discounted. I like to get teleports pretty much always, and I've been taking up some speed ups periodically. This shop refreshes every day, and there's a tab of the shop that refreshes every week. So you're going to want to be doing your technology donations, if for no other reason than to selfishly boost yourself from the shop. But spoiler alert, you should want to do them as well, because boosting your alliance in turn obviously dramatically advantages you. Now, in addition, as people unlock chests, and there's a number of ways in which you can get these gifts, including these loot chests, you can open them up and get rewards, which is really, really nice. There's a big chest over here that you can open periodically. It gives even more rewards, which is really nice. And that covers a lot of the core perks and basics of being in an alliance. You want to join one so that you can be with people that will help protect you in times of need. You gain stat boosts. You build out territory so that you can ultimately get more resources and thus more technology. And we should talk about one more thing with territory, which is that not only are you building your territory to get alliance resources, which you then turn into tech, but also there are these buildings called facilities. And these facilities give very meaningful stat boosts. I mean, this one right over here, you may not think very much of a gathering speed boost, but 5% resource gathering speed's not nothing. The ones that you're probably way more interested in would be things like, over here, the construction facility. This gives a construction speed boost. 5% faster construction is kind of a big deal for everything that you're going to build, right? And there's a research speed boost, and these buffs go on and on and on. In fact, you can own one facility of each type at each level. In other words, you can own one of each of the level 1 buildings. You can own one of each of the level 2 buildings. I can show you, I think we've got one over here. Okay, this one, what does this one do? I think defense. Maybe this is attack. Let's see, view. Yep, 5% attack. There's a defense one, and I think there's also a health one. There's level 3 buildings that go further in, okay? And the level 3 buildings give some bigger buffs, which is pretty important. Let's scroll on into this guy over here. This is a level 3 tech facility. Ooh, 8% research speed. Sheesh! Right? This one hasn't even unlocked yet. So there are some big boosts you can get. And you can get a level 3 research speed facility and a level 1 research speed facility, and that will stack. But what will not stack is 2 of the exact same type of level 3 research facilities. So we couldn't go and get 2 level 3 tech facilities, okay? These tech facilities, they're a big deal, and they only unveil themselves once the map starts to have the fog clear. In other words, based on your monument stage, there is fog in parts of the map, like you can see here. Fog areas you can see, but you you can't access them. You can't do anything with them. You can't interact with them. You see, I can't build in the fog. I can't, gather in the fog. I can't do any of this stuff. It tells you, 22 days before this particular set of fog is going to clear, right? So it's going to be some time. But if I zoom back out, you start on the sort of outermost edge of the map, and then fog clears, and you can move into this area, and it takes research to do that. And then fog clears over here in the middle, and then you can go there. And if I scroll all the way back in, I can show you, here is the monument. If I scroll back up, here's the Chronicle Tundra that made it so the tundra fog cleared. But in order to build territory on that tundra, you need Alliance territory, Alliance technology, and it is right here, Tundra Surveying. For the next tier of territory to go there, you'll need Fertile Land Expedition. All right? A lot of cool stuff to take in here. Like I said, like all the stuff that I wish I had known on day one. Well, now you know. So, continuing on here, there is also some important Alliance buildings that we need to talk about. That includes the Tundra headquarters and also special buildings like the hunting trap and more. So let me explain. The Tundra HQ is your sort of second headquarters. You can place it anywhere. It doesn't need to be connected to existing territory. When you build a flag, it has to be connected to existing stuff. You can't just build flags wherever you want, right? So if I go to build a flag now, you can see it's going to cost resources. The amount of resources it's going to cost you is going to go up and up and up as you unlock more or you've built more flags. But you have to build connected to existing territory. Okay, so you can see that green area is where I can build. Now, I generally like to build in a way that maximally expands my territory. There are some reasons why you wouldn't necessarily want to do that. Like, for example, if you wanted to get a resource node and you might need to do something weird for it, then I would do that. But when you're getting these Alliance resource centers, it is important to note that although you can have multiple flags covering them, to get full coverage, you need to fully cover the resource node. In other words, if I built a flag like this, I only half cover that wood lot on the right. I would not get the Alliance resource production from it. You need to fully cover it. Even just like that, fully covering it would give production from that node. So if I built this, I can't, but like here, neither the wood mill nor the coal mine would be giving me production if I could have even built it there, which I can't. All right. Now, the headquarters, on the other hand, is buildable anywhere. Okay. Now, in fairness, I think it's only the Tundra HQ that can go in the Tundra. But generally speaking, you're going to need to keep your territory, your flags connected. And a few tips and tricks here. One is that I wasn't sure if at the start of the game you should build sort of flags just for the sake of getting resource nodes, but the answer is yes, you absolutely should. And I ended up deleting some flags because we got so progressed with our technology. It was actually kind of crazy. And we got so progressed with our flags that they all started requiring iron, which we didn't have access to. In other words, at the start of the game, you're going to have access to food nodes, wood nodes at the Alliance tier, and coal. But the iron is only available once the fog lifts, with a few exceptions. There was one spot, I think it was right over here somewhere, I think it was this one, where we could get access to it before the fog even lifted. We built our flag on the edge of the fog and it started producing for us. The next tip I want to give you about these production centers is they all produce the exact same amount, no matter where they are in the map, which is kind of neat. So 3,600 production per hour, regardless of where it is in the map, regardless of what resource type it is. Okay, very interesting. And in terms of the ratio of your Alliance resources, you want an equal amount of food and wood production. You want about half as much coal production. And you want about half as much iron production as you have coal. Okay. Now, we don't have a perfect ratio right now. We just did a building spree of flags to connect to an objective, but we're going to double back and build a bunch of flags purely for the spirit of resource generation. And that resource generation is a huge part of what gave us a big advantage, okay? Now, one trick for building flags is that people often like to build them, as you see here, just the corners touching, like right over there, right? You see those corners touching right by this little node over here? The reason is that you actually can have someone else build across your territory. So it is very friendly to other alliances to do that. As an example, we built our flags over here, and then someone else built through us to get to where they were going. Now, why it is they wanted to go here, I'm not entirely sure. You don't actually need to have flags touching these particular buildings over here, the fortresses and the strongholds. These are a part of a completely separate event line, and I'm going to do some videos about that. But as far as I can tell, there's really no reason to build flag up to the land that touches the fortresses and strongholds, okay? If you're going to contest one of these things, you teleport literally right next to it, like right here, right? You would be teleporting like here, okay? You wouldn't want the territory anyways, my 2 cents. But building with these corners is generally, I think, a favorable approach so that people can build through you, as you see here. And in general, you want to get like one flag means one resource node. And you're not always going to be able to do that as you traverse to a destination, but you can see here, like this flag has a resource node, this flag has a resource node, this flag has a resource node. In fact, you can see we're getting production from this one because it says our alliance name next to it, SQD. That's Smash Squad. But you can see it took 2 flags to get this. One flag covers half of it, one flag covers the other half. I mentioned that you can do that, but I wanted to sort of show that to you. Here's a couple flags that were just traversing territory, right? Like it just is what it is. We had to go to where we were going. And in general, when I'm building a flag, I really don't like to do like what you see here where the flag is kind of losing some of the ground it could have had for expanding our territory by eating into this weapons facility. So these 2 little spots are kind of dead spots, and it is what it is. Sometimes you need to do that and it's perfectly fine. I've done that on occasion, and like you got to go where you got to go, and it is what it is. And sometimes you do that, but in general, you just want to be expanding as much as you can. Okay. Gosh, what else do I want to talk about with Alliance territory? There is so much that I've learned about this, by the way. One thing I'll show you, and I need to give a shout out to my homie Skillet, who shared with us this design from his state, but we've got a really sick hive going around our bear trap. And the bear trap is very critical. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, the hunting trap. But you can see like we have a just absolutely astronomical amount of cities jam-packed together in a very, very, very intentional way. And we've got a very, very intentional flag design here as well, where like theoretically we could also relocate our fort, and once we've connected our territory to our other flag line, like we have a lot of flexibility, okay, without getting into all those details. For the sake of what? This right here is called the hunting trap. Having us together around the hunting trap makes sense because periodically you summon the bear. When you summon the bear, you rally it down and do a bunch of damage, and you get a ton of rewards, and they are critical rewards for progressing your hero gear. So the reason that we are in the sort of formation that we're in is that we've got the sort of highest power players, ideally, with the strongest rallies in the middle, and the lowest power joiners toward the outer end of the hive. And if we were to be attacked, you couldn't have somebody port into the middle of us and start hitting everybody. They'd have to port all the way to the outside and work from there, which is certainly a good bit more difficult, and I don't think people want to mess with us anyways, but you're trying to get people relatively close to each other and this bear trap when you sort of build out your hive, both for protection reasons and also for eking out more damage in the hunting trap itself. Whew! So, other things you need to know about alliances in Whiteout Survival. Often it is common to have what's called a non-aggression pact, where you're agreeing to not fight with other alliances. Typically what happens is called a NAP 10, okay, or a NAP 5. If we go to the leaderboard here, we have a NAP 10 in our server. That means that the top 10 alliances don't attack each other. But if you're outside of the top 10, then you can be hit. And we recently had a situation where, like, for whatever reason, a leader of one of the smaller alliances thought they were going to, I don't know, like verbally go after one of our alliance members. And I was like, well, they're not in NAP 10, so I guess GG, have fun. And so, people ported art over. They had a little port party, and I'll simply say those guys that were not in the particular alliance that had this happen, they lost some power. All right, it just is what it is. All right, it is what it is. Pro tip to alliance leaders: be very careful what you say, because if you go insult somebody, who knows? There's usually consequences, especially in this kind of game. Holy smokes. Okay. Other things that you need to know about your alliance. I feel like that covers the overwhelming majority of things that I wish I had known. One thing I'll add is that if you dismantle a flag, you get back a portion of the resources, and it's a small portion. It'll ask you to confirm, but I kind of don't want to do it because it'll give you a confirmation, but I just really don't want to mess this up. It'll give back a portion of the resources. It's a very small portion. You do it if you have to do it, but generally speaking, you don't want to be building and then deleting flags. It's not optimal. The only time that we really did that, and I don't regret our choices, but I think we could have done it a little bit better, is that we had built a huge flag line because this was all fogged through here. All this area is fogged where we had flags now. We built a huge flag line that went all the way on the outside of the fog, around here, up around here, back over this way, and it reconnected through here. And that let us get to this facility before the fog lifted, right? So we had this building plan that took us on this roundabout way. And later we reconnected the territory, as you see here, through the middle, and then deleted the outside flags. But we did that to save iron. As it turns out, I don't think that ended up being as important as I thought it was going to be. Once you start getting iron, it's going to be really, really plentiful. And in my ideal world, maybe would have moved in a little bit more slowly, but still had a bunch of resource producing flags, right? I deleted a bunch of flags. It is what it is. We learned. And I don't feel bad about our choices because we're doing great. But you need a ton of resource production. I can't overstate it, man. GG. Other things I would say, I don't know, your alliance leader can see when it was you were last online. This is really, really critical. I mean, to be honest, where do you think I look when it's time to remove people from the alliance? Right? When someone cool knocks on our door, I look at the people who contribute the least. Well, who contributes the least? It's going to be the people that haven't been on, right? They obviously are not contributing as much. Now, keep in mind, this server is 2 weeks old. So when someone's offline for a short amount of time, or even a moderate amount of time, and the server is old, it's a totally different story than when a server is brand new, right? And you just have to be very careful, in my opinion, from if you're building a top alliance, letting people that are inactive or just not very frequently online from clogging up space in your alliance. As of right now, I put a marker down that said hey, if you haven't teleported to the new Hive, and it's been, we'll say 24 hours. So it's a reasonable amount of time. But I said, hey, if you haven't relocated to the new Hive, we might just kick you. I don't care if you're online, if you can't figure out to follow the instructions to move to the new Hive. Do I think those people are going to be able to follow instructions in war? Right? No. But it's the weekend, and we're giving people some time for the most part to, make the move over. But I am more aggressive than normal. And here's the last piece of advice I'll give you, which is that some people think oh my God, you're being so rude by kicking someone from your alliance who's been inactive for 2 days. And I actually think the complete opposite is true. I mean, and it takes a little bit of explaining for people to understand this. And let me just get my gatherers home because we're about to do the bear trap. I generally really don't like to leave resource nodes halfway. It's my bad. I messed up the bear trap time. I'll try to go back for them. But what I wanted to say here is that you have to prioritize your most active players. This is true of every city building war game I've ever played. Trust me, I have a lot of experience here. You have to prioritize your most active players. How do you do that? By making sure other active players are there with them. You're going to spend more time hemming and hawing about whether or not to remove a player who's barely active, barely contributing to your tech. And you're going to end up spending more time shooing them out of the alliance and deciding what to do with them and talking to them and seeing if they're really playing, than you do actually caring for your best members who contribute the most. And what makes your best members who contribute the most leave? It's seeing that other players aren't contributing, right? So like everyone in this alliance knows that literally every other person here does their part, which makes everybody do their part and be more excited about it, because when you have to sacrifice, which inevitably is going to happen, you know that everybody else is sacrificing with you. And that makes everyone more willing and motivated to participate in that, right? This is a team game. So although it seems mean to be aggressive about activity, actually the opposite is true. It is the kindest possible thing you can do for your contributing hard workers, to do them the favor of making sure that everybody else is trying to contribute their best too. And some people play the game more casually, and if you want a more casual alliance, totally cool. You can go find one. This is really about how you build a top tier alliance, right? And even now, like, I have to make some choices about, do I care more about activity or power? And for the most part, I care about activity and instruction following more than I do power, quite frankly, right? Like, what does it matter if someone's high power if they don't know how to follow instructions? Actually asking, right? Like, I'd take a good joiner any day of the week than someone who is higher power but doesn't read the markers, right? And like, so this hive we set up, holy smokes. It went pretty well, but like getting, what do we have here? Like 70 people, 80 people to teleport in this pattern without messing it up is a pretty cool feat of strength. And a few people needed to adjust their teleports, and it is what it is, right? But like, not bad, man. Not bad. Whatever. This video has gone on long enough. If you enjoyed it, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure I'll drop more alliance tips and tricks. Definitely leave your comments down below. I'm eager for them. Like I said, I've been in this genre for 6 years, but this channel is dedicated to Whiteout Survival. And as I learn things about the early game, I share all of that stuff with you. Ton of really cool videos are on the way. And in case you haven't already seen, there's been a few drama videos. I'll put a card in the end screen for that one. Also, if you're just looking for like my day one start and like, how did we get here? Check the card at the end of the video. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.